We see the problem, so what's the solution? Not only do I want to speak about just the relationship topic as general and big as it is, but I specifically want to speak about friends. Why do friends come to ends? This isn't including friends who just, evolve into the place of just being a simple associate of yours or a business partner or in another format of relationship. They just may be someone you have a mutual relationship with. But specifically, friendship is what I want to speak about. First, I want to talk really quickly and brief about the root of friend, the word friend, which is, as most of us know, it's amity. Amity is a peaceful harmony. It's a peaceful relationship. It's mutual understanding between people that you grew up with, people you meet along your growth, and it's being on one accord. It's also conjugal love. That love that you have for the person that you marry, if you're married or if you're dating or anything like that. That's a form of a friendship that you have within your marriage. Next, let's speak about what a friend even is, like recognizing what a friend is. Friendships can range from childhood up until old age, obviously, right? A friend shouldn't be defined by race, religion, creed, environment, background, gender, sexuality, things like that. However, it's more common for relation and relatability to be a main factor and primary factor in even establishing any form of friendship or even association. Common interests, personality, character, views, these things all come into play when it comes to choosing someone that you would actually say, oh, that's my friend. Now, I want to start with childhood and recognizing, like I said, what a friend is. To be basic, first, friends, just like mutual enemies, have the same hate towards one another. Friends have a mutual liking towards one another. At least they're supposed to. Although friendships aren't the very first relationship experience that we have when we're coming into this world, friendship is one of the most primary forms of relationship outside of the familial bond. We can say we build friendships with our family members, our cousins, our siblings, or our parents. It depends on how you view family and the relationships you build within your family component. But the reason a friendship is what it is because you end up relating to people that you're not kin to. And that is recognizing a friendship is just mutual like. Okay. We see the problem, so what's the solution? Back to why do friends come to ends? Now, I could touch on associations, but I know and understand that an associate can be someone that you meet and you don't necessarily have affection for, but you may organize things with this person, have a partnership in some format of business or the same interests. And this can be able to evolve into a mutual relationship, in which I mentioned in the part 1. But friendships, they are the relationships that we build on affection outside of our kinships, outside of our family members, our blood, our siblings, There are relationships outside of that in which are our friendships. Now, the evolution of friendship shouldn't be defined by things that happened and occurred, I think, in the process of growth. Just like an intimate relationship, friends have to give each other the room and space to allow one another to understand and recognize the stage that our friend may be in. One thing about me is when I was friends with people, I never felt like they had to tell me their business, and I felt like my business was my own. But that's just something that I paid attention to, seeing how my parents were with each other. There were times that I tried to understand the whole relationship aspect by watching my parents. And it seemed to me like they had a really close, friendship and relationship, like best friends. However, my parents had a different childhood than me, and they were raised in the same place, throughout their childhood. They met and were high school sweethearts, and I'm pretty sure they had other relations outside of their relationship. But they ultimately had chose to take on this life thing with one another, for this portion of their lives. But I see friendships coming to an end mostly due to one of the most deeply deadly sins: the ultimate betrayal of lies and breaking one's trust from betrayal. And this right here encompasses, the act of deliberate disloyalty. A friend telling others your deepest secrets. Sometimes your friend might slip up and say something about something more surface level in which you may not have wanted to be shared, right? But when your friends go and tell secrets that are a detriment to themselves, or if they say things to mislead or deceive, that's typically something that can occur too. I'm about to talk some more about some things I've seen as far as what I may have done right or wrong as a friend. Okay, we see the problem, so it's the solution. Round 3. So I had some really interesting things occur when I was a kid, right? When it came to friends. We have those friends who, want to tell you something is wrong with what you have on, or something looks silly on you. You have a booger in your nose, your breath stink, whatever, right? And then you have those friends who, instead of telling you, they tell everyone else. Not sure if we can all say that they're friends or not, but to each his own. So I always say this like a broken record, but I moved around, not a lot, but enough to know that I was not really able to stay in one place longer than maybe 2 or 3 years during the duration of my childhood. So I just got to a point where I just wanted to finish school so that I can decide if I want to continue to travel the world, or if I wanted to just find somewhere to be stable and grow in first. Now, at this age, I can truthfully say I prefer to have friends who can be honest with me. Not friends who feel like if they say certain things, it's going to hurt my feelings. I don't care about that. If you really my friend, tell me whatever you have to say. Like, just be my friend. Like, by being honest with me and telling me the truth. However, I've grown to realize that a lot of people don't like this. A lot of people feel like you shouldn't say certain things because it may hurt someone's feelings and stuff like that. And I understand that. That's why I kind of stay to myself a lot, because I don't want to be in a friendship where I have to tiptoe around telling you the truth, On top of that, when I was younger, I used to think that keeping my own secrets was the best way to keep friendships. So I used to lie about just stupid stuff when I was a kid. Like, I'd be like, no, I wasn't born here. I was born in Puerto Rico. Or I'd be like, yeah. And my mom, she was like, born in Tahiti or something like that. Yeah, my mom knows 18 languages. Yeah, my dad, he's been like literally everywhere in the world. Mostly because I was obviously immature, compulsive liar as a kid. And I watched really young how people can take things that you say to them and use it against you. When I was in Virginia, there was this little white boy, ginger hair, and these other 2 kids who were with him, 2 little boys. We were in art class, and I was minding my little business. Next thing you know, spitball comes at me. Why me? I felt pretty, humiliated. We get in the hallway. Me and the little white boy get in a little tussle. First fight I ever had. Outside of that, there were some girls that wanted to fight me because of this boy liking me. The new kid on the block roll gets very old. Round 4, we see the problem, so what's the solution? Why do friends come to ends? Like I was saying, I moved around a lot, right? It started with my mom wanting to put me into a private Christian school. When I was, brought into this world and really, really, really little in my elementary days, and my mother and father weren't together, my mom still lived with my grandparents. And at this time, she didn't want me going to school in the city, so she put me into a private Christian school, and she would drive me there every day to go to get my education there. At this particular school, when it comes to experiences of building friendships, I remember there was this boy I liked, kissed a boy before, but I also kissed a girl. This girl was one of my friends. There were also other girls that were in this friend group. Within this group, one of the girls, it was a white girl, her mother was the chaperone for this particular field trip. She chose all the other girls to be in her group except me. I cried and boo-hooed, and then there was another woman who was the mother of this guy in the class who was pretty cool kid. I just didn't really never talk to him. And his mom made my whole day like amazing. Like, she didn't make me do anything like the guys, but I was a little tomboy a little bit anyway. So she allowed me to just have fun, and she bought me stuff, and it was a good thing. But I remember that happening specifically because I remember myself feeling betrayed. Also, because I was so young, it was like kindergarten, first grade. It was one of those things where my sexuality was being tested at a very young age. But I'm not talking about relationships. This is specifically about friends. From there, I understood why I gravitated more to friendships with guys and ended up being a little too rough around the edges. Wasn't too much of an emotional kid outside of being in the house and writing. My mom worked a lot, and my dad was always gone because he was in the Navy when I was little. So, those times where I was alone and isolated, my imagination would roam free. But then when I would get around people, I wanted to develop friendships. After that experience of the girls being on the trip without me and me having to gravitate to the guy group, we then moved to the county, out of the city, to Severn. When we moved to Severn, I had another experience, and I was only going to this public school maybe a month before this boy embarrassed me about not having breasts, and I went in the bathroom and I put tissues in my shirt. I was so heartbroken. And from there, I was like, boys aren't my friends either. Mind you, this is still less than second grade. Round 5. We see the problem, so what's the solution? Storytelling, obviously, that's what I'm doing. So after I realized, obviously, I haven't hit puberty yet, and breasts weren't a thing I had at my young age. Only reason I was like even thinking about that is because of my older cousin who was big up top. She had bigger breasts, but I had like just like a big head and a big butt and a flat chest. So pretty much that was just the weirdness of myself, I guess. And I used to feel like I'm not a regular girl because I don't have what girls have. Now, that being said, I kind of went through school in my insecurities, but not too much focused on them because there were things that I loved as a kid, like dancing and going places and stuff like that. This particular experience I'm about to speak on is why I always say my dad was like my bestie. My mom was my bestie too, and so basically there was a time when we moved to Anne Arundel County. That's where the school was that I went to. I think it's called Van Bachlen, if I'm not mistaken. It was this girl. She had gum, and I didn't really need it, but I wanted it because we were watching a movie. This was, I think, going into first grade or second grade. I know one of them schools I was supposed to be skipping a grade, right? So she said, I'll give you the gum, but you gotta give me $1. I said, I don't got $1, so never mind. So then she like, oh, well, you can still have it. Gave me the gum, right? Fast forward to when I get home. This girl and her sister coming up to me while I'm riding my bike, being my little happy-go-lucky self. So her big sister's like, yeah, my sister says you owe her $1 for some gum. So I'm like, you definitely told me that I could have the gum for free. So then her sister's like, yeah, you riding around on this bike like you having so much fun, all la 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 la, and something else she said, right? So at this point, my first fight would have commenced, right? But here goes my dad coming out of the house like, what's the problem? Oh, she owed my sister some money for gum. So he like, what? Well, go get your father and tell him come around here so we can handle it. They never came back. So after that, pretty much we moved to Virginia. I met twins from the Bronx. This was when we moved to Norfolk. And I was mainly best friends with one of the twins. This particular friendship, I can say, was one of the ones that repaired some of the things that I went through with friends before, because my friend from the Bronx was just like, we were like this. More to come on my friendships. I think I said that right. We see the problem, so what's the solution? So those girls, they may have had, maybe their father was somewhere else. He could have been in jail. He could have not been available. He might have been an absent parent. He could have passed away. So who knows what their situation was. And my father just did what he could by making sure that nothing was going to happen to me. That's what a parent's job is. Or they could have had their father and he might have just been like, ain't nobody doing all of that. Y'all over there doing stuff y'all ain't supposed to be doing anyway. Or he could have did a ritual. Or he could have just ignored them. Who knows? I don't know. But all I know is I never seen them again. Or if I did, I never recognized them. Me and my friend in Virginia, they moved back to New York. And that is a part of how a form of physical separation can separate friends and create an ending to friends. Because that wasn't a friendship that was broken by any other means other than the fact that they moved back to New York from Virginia. And I wanted to move back to Baltimore, but that wasn't going to happen anytime soon. So when it came to the middle school I was at, when I was in Virginia going to Azalea Garden, I had so much fun because I got to do cheerleading and stuff, dance, and I met this, I had some female friends, but there was this one particular guy I met, right? He was actually held back a couple of grades, and I was only in 6th grade. But he was supposed to have been in high school. So I don't know what he did. He said he had, did some bad stuff. Maybe he wasn't paying attention in class. Some people thought school was stupid, which it kind of was. But anyway, I guess there were some things we needed to learn, but I digress. He was cool because he treated me like a little sister. I'm not going to say that's exactly what he was trying to do, but he would tell me stuff about boys that just, I guess some boys would talk amongst each other to know. He would tell me the little slick things guys would plot on girls. He would tell me little ways guys would trick girls into their pants. He was telling me things to recognize when a boy acts like he is like being rude, but really he ends up liking me in some weird way. These are things that I never understood as a kid, but as an adult, I see them more because I understand now what that was, especially since I was able to be a teacher at one point. And when I was able to be a teacher, I seen children do certain things that I recognized happening when I was a kid. Thank God for memory. Now, my memory isn't the best, so there are some things that I just didn't really keep on my mind. Like some of the things I might have done to other people who looked at me as a friend. However, like I said, I was really disconnected from allowing myself to get really emotionally bonded to people because I always knew in the back of my head, we about to move. To be continued. Round 7. We see the problem, so what's the solution? I forgot to mention, when I was in that Christian school, I did have a friend too who wasn't necessarily in that friend group, but she was. And her mom and my mom were cool, so me and her still had like times that we would hang out outside of school. And the one who I said that we kissed during nap time, I don't even know why we stopped being friends. Maybe she felt violated. I know I felt like something may have been weird about it too, but I don't hold anything against people. We were definitely kids. So you grow and you learn from what, occurred, if things like that occurred with you. And remind you, this is also around the time frame in which I was sexually violated by someone in their a female in her teens. But I won't touch on that too deeply anymore because that's just something that I realized of my past and I've healed from. But yes, her and there was another girl who was a different race from me, but we went to a concert. She just randomly invited me to a concert, right? But we had like similar personalities. Even though she was a different race, she was a tomboy like me. We both like rugby. We like lacrosse. We liked sports. We just like games. We liked just being a little rough little girls, climbing trees, being silly. So me and her were cool, and we like rock bands, and we like, stuff like that. So it just so happened that those were also two friends that I had. But like I said, we moved a lot. So back to the guy friend I had from Virginia. The reason I was saying he was like a friend is just because he always just kept it real about the boys factor. And he knew that, I was one of the youngest girls on that cheerleading team for the school, and we were cheering for the high school too. So I was going to be around some, hormonal boys, or hormonal, easily aroused. So I just liked just the format of gymnastics, cheer, doing weird stuff, being flexible, that stuff was just fun to me. But who actually thinks like little boys are looking at little girls in the way that adults look at each other, right? Just know all of that's going on, parents. And it's only getting worse thanks to the media. So Virginia wasn't really extremely bad experience. There were a couple times that things happened with my brother that he probably has more of a story about when it comes to bad experiences with friends. But Virginia was kind of a place where I was able to be cool with some folks for real. So after Virginia, we moved back to Maryland, but it was to the Eastern Shore, Salisbury. This was around 7th grade for me. So to be continued on my storytelling time of friendship. We see the problem, so it's the solution. Part 8. Eastern Shore, Maryland. I like Salisbury after the fact. But when we moved there, I was bored. It didn't seem like it was going to be a lot to do. And the more we were places I didn't want to be, the more I was just annoyed. But you would never know because I made the best out of wherever we went and whatever the situation was. Because that's just all I knew to do. I wasn't a drama-filled kid. And even though there were things and differences that I may have been scarred by, I always tried to keep my good positive energy. Even if there was some bullying going on, it was this weird thing about some of these friendships I had. I realized that some of these people were not my friends, and the entire time it was always a plot to hurt me or something like that, right? And I wasn't out here trying to hurt people for nothing. I just didn't see the purpose of the drama. But as an adult, I do know that a lot of children were scarred because they may have been foster care children. They may have been disconnected from their parents. Their parents may have not been able to raise them. They may have been in one environment that was a harsh environment their entire childhood. I just wasn't in one area. So moving around different places and not being necessarily in always suburban places, but not the worst of places either, is why I guess I went through a different type of path than some other children. So we all have journeys and we all have our stories. So when it came to Eastern Shore, I had different groups of friends. One of the friend groups I had, they were maybe a year or two older than me, and the same for the other group. But like I said, I was moved up a grade anyway when I was in elementary school. So that doesn't matter. We were all in the same age group. There were friends I had in which I had to really realize it was real grownish in the Brei. When I say grownish, I mean like some of the girls were doing things that like I was just like, whoa, I'm not ready for that. I used to think boys' private parts was nasty looking. My mom made me put powder on my chest. And this guy asked to look at my, stuff. And I was like, why? But then I realized, well, that's a thing. Like guys like, girls, they like looking at that stuff. But yeah, I realized guys like that stuff. So I was like, I don't got much there. And, it's pretty much white, but you can look at it. So then we both pretty much laughed at the whole situation because it was too funny. After that, we was cool. Then I had a few boyfriends. And man, I'll tell you, you see the problem, so it's the solutions. Part 9. Yeah, so there was a guy that wrote me a letter. Back in them days, it was letter writing, right? So it was middle school. This guy, he wrote me a letter. And we were boyfriend-girlfriend for maybe about 2 weeks. It just got weird to me because I just couldn't handle the romanticness of him. Like, this guy was light years ahead of me when it came to his emotional intelligence. I was just so disconnected from my little girl emotions that I was just like, I'm not ready for all this. It was just too deep for me. And when he said, I love you, I think I just like said it back. I don't remember, honestly. I felt like maybe it was too deep for me, though. Most likely I didn't say it back, though. And I think we broke up because it got to be too much for me. I was stressed out. So then I got into another relationship right after that, though. And I really liked this boy, too. I like both of them, but this one I really liked. But I'm trying to remember. We broke up for some reason that I wouldn't be able to tell you, but I don't know. It was this thing like relationships in middle school for me, like any relationship in my adolescence years. I just didn't have enough maturity to take serious, and I just didn't take them serious. But I was a kid, and this is my proof right here to the world of girls are mature more than boys and all that. When it came to this level of what maturity is, I feel like boys come to be more mature in their emotions at this age, because I truly didn't know what I wanted with a boyfriend. But it seemed like these guys knew that they wanted a girlfriend, or that they wanted to maybe plot and scheme on girls in ways that, we mostly don't know and find out until later. So pretty much, I knew it was a lot of boys that probably was plotting on having sex with me. I found out there was people lying, saying that I was sexually active with boys. I didn't lose my virginity until I was 18. I may have did little, kiss in the hall, show people my flat chest, but I never was sexually active in those age ranges. So that's to kill all the lies from the Brei to Virginia to wherever else I lived. Even in the summers when I was in New York and the Carolinas, down south, throughout all of this, I went to school in these places, but I've been a lot of places as a kid. So it was a lot of experiences back then, And there'll be more to discuss about that when I get to the high school portion. But birds of a feather flock together. That's what I'm about to bring up. Story time, friendships to be continued. We see the problem, so it's the solution, part 10. I'm going to finish the story up until I get to this age I am now, which is age 28. I consider age 28 my year 1, and I'll talk about that later. But ultimately, 8 plus 2 is 10, and then 1 plus 0 is 1. Okay, that's why I call it my year 1. Rebirth. So before I continue, I do want to say friends have their ends also because of the differences in their upbringing, as well as their understanding of their childhood or their adolescent age, or their understanding of life at that particular age or stage. Who we are around as children does affect who we become as adults, and how fast or slow we choose to mature and grow. And I just personally paid attention to everything, not just my parents. I paid attention to every adult that crossed paths with me in my life. I kind of have an idea on why I used to do that, but I paid attention to adults a lot as a kid. So I know for a fact that children now have to be paying attention to every little detail. Just be truthful and answer their questions. If you truly want to be someone's friend and you know something that they don't know, tell them the truth, because we're at an age where discernment is strong, intuition is as well. So, if you are the one who may have did something to instigate towards somebody's downfall, or you've spoken bad on someone's name or told lies about them out of envy, hate, jealousy, or just hurt, talk to your friend if you want there to be a friendship between you. If you are a person who actually, in fact, was the one who feel like you had been hurt or feels like you had been betrayed, you can also either let it go or approach that person and simply ask questions. You deserve to know whatever you want to know to find ways to heal from childhood traumas and wounds. And our friendships do impact how we act as adults, because it shows how much we think. I mean, look at the object of war. That's from a form of broken amity. Like, there wasn't any peaceful harmony in that between nations. There should be peace between nations, right? So those are just 2 ways that you can, rekindle, and I'll talk about more later. But this quick story about a particular friendship that happened. So yeah, I had a friend who was basically like, she was like my sis. We used to call each other sister, right? We were both short. We kind of looked alike a little bit, but ultimately she ended up hooking me up with this guy's that she was dating, his cousin. And long story short, I found out she was actually fooling with the guy she hooked me up with. This was only like 8th or 9th grade, so to be continued. You see the problem, so it's the solution. Part 11. Still talking about friendships and specifically my story time. So yeah, I mentioned a little tidbit about the relationships that I had when I got to the Brei, because of the fact that there was a girl who came to the school after me. So then she picked up the new girl role, and she wanted to date this guy who was one of the boys that I had dated, right? But she happened to live in my neighborhood, so we knew each other. So when she asked to date the boy, I'm like, all right, cool. I mean, I didn't really care because of the fact that I just didn't look at relationships the way I intended on looking at them when I became an adult. Like, I literally used to fantasize about wanting a certain type of relationship. Yeah, like most girls do. And I don't know if boys do or not, but I know I did. But ultimately, I never wanted that as a kid. I never wanted these adult-like experiences to take place for me as a kid. I just didn't want to. It was so many other things I wanted to do as a child that I didn't want to miss out on by trying to be grown too fast. And although my dad used to be like, you ain't got no friends, I still wanted to try, you know? So yeah, I was like, yeah, go ahead, you know? He's a cool guy. Y'all should, talk or whatever. I didn't know the codes and, I obviously wasn't hip to the whole she's not my friend if she had to ask me if she could date a guy that I already was dating. So then the other girl I was talking about who hooked me up with her boyfriend's cousin and then slept with him and yeah, all that mess. I pretty much noticed there was a pattern with her. Like, she just would always want to try to talk to guys that would like to talk to me. And other people too, though. It wasn't just me. It was just a thing, I think, that she just had like something happened maybe that caused her to act in this way, So yeah, I got to a point where I just, learned from watching the actions of people who claimed to be my friend and wanted to be in my energy all the time, but maybe had ill intentions, And this is not to include the couple of friends that I had down there that I will say, I think they were my friends back then, Possibly, maybe a little bit. I don't know. But either way, I just live and I learn. It's like I craved this mediocre friendship of just hanging out with the girls and, going over their house so that we can just cool and, watch TV. I don't know. All I know is I just wanted regular friendships and it wasn't going to happen, especially not by high school's time. Because everybody was just already trying to be grown. To be continued. Chatting about friendships. I might take a break though. You see the problem, so what's the solution? Part 12. In the midst of obviously healing oneself, the self-journeys are necessary, right? So I mentioned 2 things that we can do to rekindle friendships if you feel as though you would like to. And generally these are 2 things that I mentioned because friendships is the topic right now. But you can use these things in any relationship that you are trying to make amends with. And the last one I said, be truthful and answer their questions and ask questions. And this one I want to say, listen to them like you listen to yourself, but also validate their feelings. And when I say that, I mean, be vulnerable to the fact that some of the stuff that they're telling you as a friend about how they feel or about what they haven't been able to grow from, like, be true to the nature of its truth. If you have a friend that's expressing how they feel, that's their truth. That's how they really feel. And even if they may be directing it to you as if it's a victim blaming type of thing, let them have their moment. If you truly want to be someone's friend, you'll let them be in their moment of venting, and you'll be there not to just let them vent and be like, oh my gosh, this person is da-da-da. If you are their friend, you're going to listen to them and you're going to validate their feelings. You're going to be there to understand them and you're going to give them closure at the end. But a real friend is there to be that person, to listen and to respond after they've given their friend the chance and the turn to speak. I realized really quickly, like, I was always willing to listen to my friends, but I didn't have a lot of friends that wanted to listen to me. A lot of them didn't want to hear my story, didn't want to hear how I was feeling, didn't want to hear what I was going through. They just didn't listen. But trust and believe they wanted to be listened to. So ultimately I learned from that, I just learned how to just listen to myself. And the friendship that I have with myself never left me because of the fact that no matter how many people I had to chalk up as a loss of a friendship or a situation, I had this deep relationship with myself throughout life in which I never would give up on myself and I would never forget about me. And I say that with the fact that I feel like we all go through a portion of our lives where I don't care how many people we think we know, we've grown up around, we've been around, we have in our corner now even. The point is, we've all been through a time where we felt alone. And that's natural. So when it comes to the dynamic of rekindling a friendship, be open, be honest, be truthful. If you don't care, don't pretend. If you don't want to be that person's friend, don't waste their time or your own.
Friendships to be continued.
We see the problem, so what's the solution? Part 13. So yeah, as I mentioned, not wasting someone else's time if you don't want to be their friend and everything. There will be the reprobate. There will be the people who will still want to do evil things. We cannot stop evildoers. We're not here to do that. We are here to serve our own individual purpose, right? We don't have time to be worrying about people that aren't associated with our rightful path. When we waste time on things like that, we waste time of getting to where we're supposed to be in life. I can say that because I know I've wasted a bit of time focusing on things that weren't necessarily probably meant to even be a part of my path. But all in all, I have no regrets because without those experiences, I wouldn't be where I am today with my mental and with my peace, with my surroundings, with my stability. Like, I have no complaints about where I am today at 28. And yes, I rationalize with myself a lot, but I also analyze things from a realistic point of view. I just take serious what I learn and what I know at this point and what life was and what life will be while just enjoying the present. But for the friends who are the ones who are on the side of wanting to be there for your friends and maybe you people please a little bit more than you need to be doing or not at all should be doing. And maybe you're just seeking love so much from so many outside people that you're forgetting to pour it into yourself. It isn't anyone's job to make us happy. It is our own job to do so. And that is with everything when it comes to life. We have to make sure that we are all those things within ourselves before we expect them from others and before we speak those to others. It's just like we can sit here and counsel people all day. If you're a counselor or if you're a therapist or if you're a life coach, what is the capacity of being able to assist another person if you haven't even taken the time to work through your own experiences and be a life coach to yourself? I did have people I looked at when I was a child, but as I became an adult, I learned how to become my own mentor, my own tutor, my own teacher. I have to understand myself, and that is just a personal thing that I've always wanted and desired. So if you're the friend who's always given a lot of yourself, it's time to give more to you. And it's okay to say no. It's okay to be the one to have to choose to say, this is where this has to come to an end. Some things come back around full circle. Other things, they waste away. But a true part of elevation is learning how to let go. And because you just never know when things will come back around where they need to be or where you may rekindle when you don't expect it, you know? So just make the room for you and your friends to grow. But in the meantime, go with the flow. We see the problem, so what's the solution? Part 14. Everyone we went to school with isn't our friend. Might have went to school together. Might have seen them every now and again after college and after high school and after middle school and so on and so forth. But that just forever makes them a familiar face. But that doesn't mean they were ever your friend. So that's just the reality. But a lot of people grow to the point of becoming friends later who didn't have that opportunity to take that journey of having a friendship back then, you know? But that's why it's cool to just allow yourself to let go of things that no longer serve where you are in the present. When we dwell and hold on to things in the past in a way that is like draining or burdening or burdensome, it just makes us be stagnant. Stagnation is a form of being stunted in your energetic growth, in your spiritual growth. And that ultimately, obviously, will affect your physical growth. So I wouldn't be able to take anything if I was to be upset about my current disposition in life. I can't blame that on anyone else because it would be based on what decisions I've made with my own life. and what things I chose to entertain. So back to high school. I did date a guy after that guy that I told you all, my friend that moved into the same neighborhood as me and everything, and she was the new girl. She dated one of the guys. So I was dating a different boy by that time who I really liked, so I was into him more. But then I was under the impression I'm hitting my 3-year mark. It's not a guarantee I'm going to be here. I just got used to moving so much that I was preparing guys that I liked to be like, look, we can date and everything, but next year I'm out of here. But it was just like a way that I bottled up my emotions and just I didn't really allow myself to take people serious in those grades. So also 9th grade year, I was at James and Bennett in Salisbury. There was the guy from 8th grade. He went to Wacomico High, so we ended up splitting up. And I think he was dating other girls anyway, so who knows. I didn't care. He was cool to me regardless. When I dated guys, I looked at it like, regardless of what they doing, I wasn't going to be sexually active with them. So I'm like, do what you do. Hey, we just friends, but we call each other boyfriend, girlfriend and stuff. Childish and very immature, I know, but I don't think like that anymore. So yeah. By high school, the little friend I was telling you all about with the cousin situation, there was a guy that wrote me a letter, said he liked me, and lo and behold, she liked him too. But me and him dated for a couple of weeks, and that was that. But the guy who hooked us up became like my best friend. We see the problem, so what's the solution? Part 15. So back to my 9th grade high school experience. The friend from my neighborhood, well, this guy also going to the same high school. After I had, been done in the relationship with the other guy, there was this one day I was walking in the hall and getting some water, and one of the guys from the football team, another one of the guys from the football team, he happened to be in 11th grade, so I didn't see him before, obviously. The only reason I seen the other guy is because we both were in the 9th grade, and, we did the freshman orientation thing. So this was probably, I want to say, a month or two within the school year. He walks past a couple times, back and forth, and then he finally asked my name, and we talked, exchanged information, and basically we started to date. This was more natural because he was just an actual, gentleman. He was a sweet person, and when I say that, I don't mean, sweet, soft or anything. I just mean, he was nice, and he was respectful. And he even came to my house before, taught me how to drive, and, different things like that. Like I said, this isn't about relationships. I've did videos already about relationships. This is about the friendships. This relationship is particularly a topic because that same friend I was telling you about who was the new girl after me, I came to find out that apparently the summer before our 9th grade year, she and the guy that I met at the water fountain had kissed that summer. She told me this when she found out that me and him were, now dating. So I was just shocked because she didn't tell me anything about her and this guy until she found out that me and him were boyfriend and girlfriend. And I mean, pretty much she just made it seem like she didn't care. Although she never expressed that to me. But life went on, and me and him ended up parting ways as well. It was over a text message. You remember how they used to do the chain messages and stuff? This guy sent a chain message, and I pressed the button back about hugging him or something like that. Didn't realize the whole group would see it, but it wasn't meant to be anything special. But he took it that way. So I had to respect his wishes, and we broke up. I was on the step team and everything, and, I was just focused on getting myself in order for the next chapter of my life. And by my 10th grade year, we were getting ready up to leave. But there's a few other friend stories I want to touch on about a Salisbury friendship to be continued. Round 16, we see the problem, so what's the solution? Couple things to do to add to the list of, if there's been betrayal in your friendship and you would like to rekindle. Understand that some friendships are meant to last a lifetime. Others have a lifespan, which means they expire at some point.
Because of the evolution of friendship not being anywhere near the same as a marriage or actual intimate relationship, there's just never a guarantee that they'll last. But they can come back around. Yet a lot of times, if they don't, it's because the growth of each individual maybe have gone so far apart from one another that the distance is too wide for there to be an actual full rekindle. But you can always make amends and make it better from what it was. Everyone deserves closure, right? And resolution to past burdens assists us with growth. If the other person doesn't want to do that, at least you know that you tried, and that's also a way for you to release that. So 2 things. Accept responsibility and take accountability for every action that you make. And don't rush your best friend. We all know what accepting responsibility is and taking accountability for your actions. But when it comes to rushing your best friend, that means if you have a friend already that you call your best friend, recognize the stage that they're at in life and just let them grow. But just be there to support them in, the background sometimes. And if you don't have a person that you can say you honestly feel is your best friend or isn't a friend anymore, or that placement is still open for you, then don't rush it. Don't rush that person to come into your life, because for you, your companion may end up being your best friend. So just take your time. The relationship with yourself is primarily what you need. I'm going to keep reiterating that because that's most important. Another story about my experience in Salisbury. I think it was like between 06, 07, 08, something like that. I was like around 13, 14, somewhere around that age. Maybe 14 going on 15. But my friend was having her, I believe, 15th or 16th birthday. And she had 2 older sisters, so they threw a birthday party for her in Ocean City. Of course, they had, their male friends and all that were around their age group. And yeah, there were the moments where they were acting like one of the guys like me or whatever. I was too young anyway. He was like 18. But either way, I didn't know how to swim at that time. And so I just put on my clothes to go out after they were all going to play in the pool and stuff. But I did go put my feet in the water. Next thing you know, my friend whose birthday it was comes and pushes me into the pool. I caught a charity horse in the pool. Not only that, I don't know how to swim. And I was on the 5 feet side and I'm short. I've definitely learned how to swim now. But, back then I didn't. So the friend whose birthday it was, she jumps in after me after she pushed me in the pool and she gets me out. Well, I tell you, friends to be continued. Part 17. We see the problem, so it's the solution. So moving along to, before I moved out of Salisbury, there were a couple more things that had occurred. I had another pair of friends. One of them, her mom was a lot more free with herself and with her kids. By staying over there a lot, she had been dating some guys who were a lot older than us. They were Haitian, and for the most part, they were cool for real. But they just were in their late 20s, so they were kind of a bit old to be, dealing with little teens and stuff. But, to each their own, I guess. So I was put in a predicament, and things were to happen, but they didn't. I said no a lot. So pretty much out of that situation, I just learned that I didn't want to put myself in that predicament again, pretty much. So I didn't. But in the process of that, I learned that these particular friends were a bit ahead of me when it came to, their interest in things and guys. I just was like, nah, this isn't quite for me. So I respected their wishes to do what they were doing, but I had to grow my way, right? Then there was this guy that came to the school. It was a new guy to the school before I was leaving that 10th grade year. The same best friend I was telling you about that I met in the freshman year, we were out in the hall, and I see the new guy coming up to the school. So I tell my best friend, I'm like, can you go and, get his number from me? I said, just tell him to look in here and see if he like what he see and give him my number. I also think I wanted to talk to him because I didn't want to talk to anybody else that was already at the school, to be honest. Yeah. Now, who else he dealt with, I wouldn't be able to tell you. But the cool thing is,
a lot of these guys that I used to date, like I said, we can talk right now and there's no bad blood, there's no grudges. I don't play dumb like I don't know them, and I never judge them in a negative way. And I actually just talked to this guy I'm talking about now. Talked to him the other day. But that's because we had like a cool friendship, you know? A lot of these things, though, and situations, I had to close chapters on because I wanted to get into a relationship one day. So I always looked at it like I have to move on, right? We were able to close our cycle and our chapter of our high school blockages, and there's no bad blood, and we understand life goes on, to be continued. We see the problem, so what's the solution? Part 18. Before I dive into the next part of my high school journey, to mention some ways of rekindling friendships after betrayals and, after the brokenness of the amity. One can first acknowledge the pain and make an honest pact. The acknowledging of the pain is something that you can do with your friend or without them or both. I would say acknowledging it on your individual time is necessary, but it's more authentic when you can sit with your friend and talk about, what you feel like you may have done wrong, and you can hear them out as well if they're as honest with you. But that's how you lead into making an honest pact with them. If they are as vulnerable to you as you choose to be with them, then they'll be honest with you as well. No true friend will pretend as if they've been so perfect within the friendship and you were just the only one who did wrong. If they do act like that, they more than likely don't really think that there is going to be a necessary reason to rekindle anything. And they're probably looking at you like, yeah, because you did me wrong and I did nothing to you. But in reality, we all have our ways, We could have done something that hurt that person that we don't know. But that's why it's good to acknowledge the pain with yourself, but also with your friends that you grew apart from. So being real with yourself in that process is a part of also making an honest pact with them, because you can speak more now about what ways to defeat the storms of friendship. When a friendship has been broken, but then finds its way back to mend itself, and both parties choose to come together and say, let's develop, something better and more stable, it has 1,000 times more efficacy to survive. And that's just in my own opinion. And that's even outside of friendships, but for relationships too. Now, when we moved back to the other side of the bridge, as one would say, it was totally to the Eastern Shore, but my parents still had a home out there. Some things happened with that house too, with a friend that I had and her mother, and they damaged the house, and it really broke my trust about that friendship. So, something like that is also a reason why friends end, And ultimately, that was a learned lesson for me, because I was the one who recommended her and her family to my parents. But truth be told, I was the one who, like I said, recommended them. So I trusted the friend that I thought, I had in her. And I don't know if they, moved back to Philly, what happened, whatever. But I send my love and my blessings, because my family has been blessed ever since. So to be continued. Friends to ends.